I'm going to show you a neat method for determining domains. First, let's talk about what a domain is. You're probably familiar with the thought of full disclosure when it comes to real estate. If I am selling some property and I know there are some major things wrong with that property, in many states I'm required to tell you what's wrong. The hot water heater is broken and does not work now. That's full disclosure. You sometimes have that quite often come into play with people that are giving investment advice, professionals. I may tell you that a particular stock seems like a good investment, but if I own that stock, I might be required to tell you, look, I own shares in XYZ Corporation. Well, that's disclosure. Think of domain, the concept of domain, as being full disclosure for functions. If there are certain values for a function that we just should not use, cannot be used in that function, we need to disclose that. So with domain, what we're talking about would be values for a function that can be used and values that cannot be used. Now let me show you an easy way to do domain. All we have to do is use this table. Now I want you to memorize this table. Right now though, what we're going to do is just take functions and step through the table to show you how to use it. So let's go through and bring up the first function. Okay, notice that there are just two questions. See, two questions. We always ask ourselves the same two questions, and we never change from that procedure. Then we just follow the table. Okay, the first question is there an even index radical? Well, the answer to that is no. There's nothing up there that even looks like a radical sign. The next question is there a denominator with a variable? Well, there's no denominator with a variable in it there. There's no denominator. You either consider there being no denominator or you're going to say the denominator is equal to 1. But in any event, there's no denominator that has a variable in it. Now if we get two no problems, look at the bottom here, two no problems would mean that the domain is all real numbers. So the domain for this function, very quickly by following the table, we were able to see all real numbers. Let's look at the next one. Okay, we've got f of x is equal to square root of x minus 5. We always ask the same two questions. Is there an even index radical? The answer is yes. Yes, there is. So we're in this cell, but now all we have to do is just follow the steps that are outlined in this cell. So the first step we should do is set the radicand greater than or equal to 0. The radicand is just what is underneath the radical, so we set x minus 5 greater than or equal to 0. Then the next step is just to solve that inequality. When we do, we get the domain. The domain is simply x is greater than or equal to 5. So the domain for our next function we got was x was greater than or equal to 5. Just took us a few seconds using the table. Let's do another one. We have f of x is equal to x minus 8 divided by x plus 22. We always ask the same two questions. Is there an even index radical? The answer here is, of course, no. There's nothing there that looks like a radical. Then the next question, is there a denominator with a variable? The answer, of course, is yes. So now we follow the instructions that we have in this cell. First thing it tells us to do is to set the bottom, in this case x plus 22, to set that equal to 0. Then our next step is to solve that equation and then exclude these values. Well, in this case, we only have one value. We need to exclude that, so our domain is all real numbers except x is equal to negative 22. So very quickly, we were able to determine the domain for this function. Let's do one more. We have f of x is equal to fifth root of x plus 11. Is there an even index radical? Look carefully. No, we do not have an even index radical because our index is 5. I cannot tell you how many students overlook this very important step. The first thing we want to do is to notice that yes, we have a radical, but it is not an even index radical. So we're here at no for no problem. Is there a denominator with a variable? The answer is no. When we get 2 no problems, that tells us our domain is all real numbers. So we've determined the domain for this function, f of x is equal to 5th root of x plus 11. The domain is all real numbers.